Hello, thank you for joining me. My name is Alexi Bailey, and I'm your host, and this is the Tell It Like It Is podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Jonah. We have some technical issues, but we're still making it happen. Jonah was just talking about being a pastor, remaining true to who you are as an individual, and not feeling like you need to conform to the label of the convention of what people think a pastor is.
I think it's very true. I mean, most pastors I know are real. Like even Pastor Bob, like Pastor David, like they're real people. You know,
Pastor
like,
Bob's very real.
Yeah, like you wouldn't expect it sometimes. He's like a very holy man of God, but at the same time, he makes he makes jokes and stuff.
I mean, I don't know. I tell my kids like, don't listen to most of the stuff in hip hop, and like when I listen to it, I definitely feel something like not holy.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, I think when I was younger, I think when people assume that because you're in the church and because you're trying to be pure and all of those things, you should. What do I think? Let's give it one more shot and then connection should be fine. We're within range. All of those things to me are relevant because, you need to have a certain, if you expose yourself to everything, then it's going to affect you and the way you see things, but I think there's a certain argument that would say you need to know what's going on in the times.
I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, like, even though you're passionate, you can't escape the world, like
you can turn it off.
I go to work, huh?
You can turn it off.
Turn it off.
The hip hop.
Oh yeah, the hip hop, yeah. But also I listen to a lot of, most of the hip hop I listen to is like edited, like clean version, most of the stuff. Because when I hear like, certain F-bombs and all that stuff, it kind of does like make me be like, I can't listen to this. So I do kind of try to clean up a lot. But the world, like for instance, I go to work. You know what I'm saying? I go to work with like blue collar guys. They cuss. We talk about like women and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like even though I'm a pastor, I still live in the world. So like there's no hiding from it. But it's just a matter of, am I gonna be a righteous person among like, the world, or am I gonna like cave to its standards? And it's like, when you build yourself up as a righteous man, like, even though you're around it, it's not going to affect you. It's just a part of the world, and you're trying to like let your light shine and be an example of, the better way of doing things.
I mean, I agree with you 100%. I just have to pose it to you because, it's a part of the thing that we have to deal with.
Oh yeah, that's true. So do you think pastors should listen to like hip hop? Like, not even like clean stuff, like not even.
Thing is, if it's radio edit, the curse words are left out, but the message and the messages are not edited.
Okay, I'm telling you right now, if you saw like a lot of stuff I listen to my podcast, I wouldn't have a problem playing it along with my pastor because it's like, number one, it's clean, and it's like usually like positive like lyrics about like, what it is to be a man, like getting your community together, like, stuff like that. Like there's a lot of positive hip hop. I don't know, hip hop isn't all like negative stuff,
I mean, we started off, we were talking about Kanye and Nas, so Nas has gotten better, but Kanye, I haven't listened to the new album, and I know he made the gospel album. If you ask me about the first 4 or 5 albums, that's regular street, struggling person.
Like Kanye, he had a song called Jesus Walks. Come on. If you clean it up, I'm just saying.
Man, I'm excited to have you. And the conversation's all good. If you're okay with being challenged, you're fine.
Oh no, I'm fine with that. I'm challenged all the time.
Yeah, man.
I challenge myself, so I challenge myself more than anyone could ever challenge me. So bring it on.
Yeah, when it comes to my kids, if I heard my kids like bumping out to Kanye, I would be concerned for sure.
But it's like funny though, like there's certain songs I won't like. I'm not gonna listen to.
I hear.
What's
you.
the one with him and Twister and Jamie Foxx? Like,
Okay.
I'm not gonna listen to that one, but I'll listen to
slow
like,
jams.
Yeah, slow jams. But I listen to like the clean All Falls Down. I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because that's like positive lyrics. He's talking about
I'm sorry.
the fact.
I'm sorry. I hear you, man. No, I hear you. But it's one of those things. Like you have to listen to it a few times to decide. All right, I'm gonna stick to these. You know, and it gets in there. You know, there's a lot of non-wholesome messages. And I'm sure you can list all of it. And I don't even want to give you a hard time because I'm not any better. I mean, I grew up in the church 100%, like born like 100%. You know, I remember, you know, when I had a Biggie album and Tupac album, and I remember I went to the library and I printed out some lyrics. And my mom got her hands on the lyrics. She was like, "What is this?" And I'll never forget, she was reading Machiavelli lyrics. And she was like reading it. I was like, oh, it sounded terrible. So I get it. I get it. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, growing up in the church, you don't want to be a square. Like,
you
don't want to be a square, right? You know, if people sagging their pants a little bit, you like, I believe in Jesus, but
that's right. Yeah,
you just sagging. You don't
want to be left out. Yeah.
But again, when you're a Christian, you're called not to fit in.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I teach the same thing. It's important to stand out for the right reason, of course.
Right. So it's one of those things. Like if you're raising your kids the right way, then it's like, son, do not fit in. Don't sag your pants. You know, don't talk the way they talk. Don't listen to that music. If they're going to a party at night, is there going to be drinking and smoking? You shouldn't go.
Yeah, you should not. Yeah, exactly.
You're right, but because you're a normal human being, your peers are going, you go as a Christian. And you say, well, I'm not going to drink or I'm not going to smoke because I'm a Christian, but you still kind of go. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
now that's one thing I never like been a part of. Like I always stayed away from, like, maybe I went to like one or two parties.
Right.
But no, like this never was like a habit of mine. That was like my early days. Now, if somebody asked me to party, I knew it was going to be like, you know, smoking and drinking. I would be like, no, I can't go. You know, just. But it's just interesting to me because, like, even though I wouldn't go in that situation, I'm still going to have to be in situations with these people. You know, I work with them. You know,
right.
You sometimes go to church with them.
Right.
You know, it's a small world out here, and it's like you can't run away from. And you just can't run away from people, you know. You still got to still know how to like connect with your fellow man.
Right. I had a friend who was telling me about the church that they were a part of, and they said, you know, the church members would use the basement for like parties.
Yeah.
And like they would bring alcohol to the party in the church. What do you think about that?
I think that, you know, the pastor needs to have like a sermon on like why, you know, that's not a good thing for Christians to do. You know, a lot of churches, like the pastor isn't going to like preach those sermons that are going to convict people. So if you go to church like that, of course you're going to feel it's okay as a Christian to do that. But I feel like, I don't think it's like a good look for a Christian.
And they said that the pastor would, you know, show up and get a drink.
No, it's funny though. I'm actually trying to work on a screenplay, which is kind of like deals with some of those topics. Cause like, I've noticed that like a lot of Christians are like that. Like me personally, I couldn't follow a pastor that kind of lived that kind of way.
That has a drink?
Not doesn't have a drink, but like to a point where it's like, you just live. Yeah, I would say that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if my pastor, I found out he like had a sip of wine, yeah, but I found out like he had like a habit of drinking. Like I would be like, yeah, I don't know if that could be my pastor. Cause like you know.
I mean, 2 scotch on the rocks. Is that okay or no?
Maybe on vacation kind of thing, but like me
in the church basement.
In the church basement?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely not. No, the church is like supposed to be like consecrated to the Lord. You know, that kind of. I didn't know that's what you said before, the church basement.
Yeah. So the church.
Oh,
so
basically, it was like somebody's home.
This is the church, and you're like, it's so and so.
The only thing that could be is a communion wine, maybe. You know.
So it'd be like so and so's 50th birthday party, and then you know they bring the food and everyone's there. And then they also bring some bottles.
Nah, that's too
And
much.
and then the
No,
pastor comes like, "Oh, Shirley's happy 50th. Oh, what do you guys drink? Yeah, I have one." And
no, that's too.
what's wrong with that?
I mean, it's the problem with that, and I know some people would say I'm wrong, but like me personally, I just feel like it's like a step close to drunkenness. Is it drunkenness? Like drunkenness is a sin, right? We can agree with that. But it's like having alcohol is like it kind of encourages like drinking. And what's the difference between like being someone who has like a few sips and someone who gets drunk all the time? It's like a thin line, I would say.
Is the sin getting drunk, or is the sin getting drunk all the time?
The sin's getting drunk. Like drunkenness is a sin. Like in my book at least.
Why is it a sin?
Mind you, I'm not a drinking person, so I really don't even know what the line is, to be honest.
Yeah,
I really don't know like that.
Is one drink okay? Do
I
you
think
have,
it's
you
okay.
have drunk? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's okay, but like for me, I just think it's like a weird thing when I see like Christians who like drink a lot. Like to me, it's kind of like showing like why do you need to drink so much? Like because that could be like that's a vice for me. Like when I hear like people drinking all the time, sounds like a vice. It's just not a good look. There's a lot of people who overdo it. So I wouldn't want to. So like always try to like say like I'm not gonna do something that people overdo. Like if I know like this is a temptation for someone, I'm not gonna like live my life in a way where they can say, well, he's drinking, so I can do it.
Right.
I can't do that.
Right.
And even with the hip hop, like you brought up that's a good point because it's like, I do try to listen to music that I can at least say like, yo, I can at least say I listen to righteous hip hop at least, at the minimum. Because I know like if somebody found out I was listening to like Little Baby or Cardi B or something, they would feel like, oh, I can listen to this unedited and stuff. Because like, the weirdest thing happened the other day. One of my youth has a driver's license, right? And now I was driving with them, and they were playing like music with cussing in it, and it just bothered me so much. I'm like, yo, why you listen to this kind of music? It's not good. But like, it would be wrong of me to like condemn him for doing that. Not condemn, but get on him for doing that. If I was the kind of person that listens to that same kind of music, like I would never be able to do that. So the fact that I do have like a clean playlist, I have the authority to like say that. The same way drinking, you can't rebuke someone for like always being drunk. If you're like a pastor that likes to take a drink every now and then, you got to have the authority to stand on that.
So did you talk to them about it, or did you let it go?
I mean, you can't. It's their car. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. I know. Yeah, I could tell them like,
in that
don't
moment,
do that.
In that moment, you were hanging with them as a pastor, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, we were driving to get something to eat.
Yeah. The only reason why I'm talking about all of this is because it's relevant. Relevant is like, how do we live our life? And I grew up very strict. Like, no one should be drinking any alcohol. Like, alcohol hurts your body. Your body is the temple of God, so you shouldn't even sip a wine cooler. That's how I grew up.
Okay. Did that make you want to rebel at all? Like,
did it make me want to rebel? It didn't make me want to rebel, but the idea is this is how you want to live to be pure for God, right? And I think as a young person, when you don't have a strong community in that lifestyle, if everyone you know is over here, you don't want to be the only one on this side. So it didn't make me want to rebel, but like when I look at the Amish, all of them are doing the same thing. So wanting to rebel means leave the Amish life and go do whatever, right? But it's one thing if we're all here to, you get what I'm saying? So for me, I didn't see Christians who were pure. I saw Christians who were of the world struggling, but they believed in Jesus.
Yeah, I mean I feel like that's the majority of Christians. Either like they're struggling, or they're just like straight out like, I don't follow all these standards, but I believe in Jesus kind of thing.
Right. And where does that lead us now? Where are we with that now?
Are you talking about like, what do you mean by where?
Like, where are we now?
Oh, we're just in a world where like people don't really have a clear definition of what Christianity is.
So what would you say to these Christians who don't agree with this? They follow that, don't follow that?
I mean, you gotta embrace the whole thing. I always say like, I feel like the Bible is like a tough pill to swallow. Like, it's like the whole thing, it's a lot, but like you just gotta like take your time and like let it like come upon you. Let the message and let it like purify you. And it may not be like an overnight thing, but I feel like you should at least be like, okay, this is what the Bible says. I'm not there yet, but I'm gonna try to get to that place, you know? And when I try to get to that place, I mean like actually like attempt. Like don't just like say you're gonna do it and then like, you know, it's 10 years and you still haven't like changed that, you know?
When did you come to Jesus?
I was raised like in a church atmosphere as well. However, I would say like this, Jesus didn't become real for me until I was, okay, he was always real for me per se, but like I took it more seriously when I went to college and I found like a good church on my own. Like it wasn't just like I go to church because I'm supposed to. It's more like I go because I want to. And the people, I had a really good church community there that like really lived a righteous life, and it was just something different. Because you know, you grew up in the church, you see a lot of people go to church, but they don't live it, so you don't really feel a need to take it as seriously. But when you're around people who are living the life they proclaim, you realize like, yo, if they're doing it, I can do it. Let's all like grow together.
What school did you go?
It's called Thaddeus Stevens. It's in Lancaster. It's a trade school.
Okay. And
Lancaster, PA.
That was your college.
Yes.
So you went there. Was it sleepaway or?
Oh yeah, I lived over there. Yeah.
So you found people in your college who was going to the church?
Yes. Because like, yeah, there was a guy at my college. I was like, hey, come to church with me one day. And I didn't know this guy, but like, he seemed nice. So I went to the church, and the church was amazing. Like probably like one of the best churches I've been to outside of my current church.
What kind of church is that? What's the name of it?
It's called In the Light Ministries. It's actually one in Philadelphia, and I go there every now and then when my church is like, I don't know, I have a day off or something. But
Yeah. Yeah. So before we got on, we were talking about saving souls
yes.
and being in the business of saving souls. And I said, I'm in the business of saving souls. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Right. And I was saying, I was saying that right now you have to reach people where they are, and conventional church isn't working at that. And you started saying that we have to stick to some level of what conventional church is.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So what is it we need to stick to?
That's hard to say. I guess I like the idea of like having a place where Christians can go and congregate together, whether that's a church, whether that's a home. I think that's a very important thing. You know, just like a power in having a church versus like people do church homes all the time. Nothing wrong with that, but I just feel like it's just easier for a lot of people to do it actually at a church building. It's like this building is consecrated for God, and it just if you ever tried having church at your home, it becomes like kind of a burden. You start like getting more and more people. It's like really hard to do, but when you have like a dedicated church building, it just makes sense as like the next move. It's not like you're trying to bring all these strangers. Nothing wrong with strangers in your home, but you know, not everybody who comes to your home is necessarily someone who you know.
I hear you.
They bring things with them, you know. It's like
yeah.
Kind of yeah.
So let me get back to the root of what's going on, right?
Yes.
So this is the 21st century, okay? And we know there's a lot of people out there who are struggling, right?
Yeah.
The world is a tough place, and they have unhealthy coping mechanisms, whether it's drugs, alcohol,
Netflix. Nothing wrong with Netflix, but you know, it can be a coping mechanism.
You know what I mean? So we see these things happen. It's happening. We see it happening, right? They know that the church is down the road and around the corner. Everyone can tell you where a church is.
Yeah, so true.
But in the midst of their desperation, why aren't they going to church? Why?
Okay, I know where you're going. Yeah. So, know why people don't go to church? Because Christians don't do their job. I feel like, you know, as Christians, what's their job to do? It's literally to reach out to people, not even necessarily invite them to church. I mean, that's like, you know, next level, get them to church. Like the first thing you should do is just let them know like, hey, I love you, but not, you know, just say it, but I'm saying like, be available to in a way where they can be like, that guy, I could tell he has love in his heart. I can tell he loves that. I can tell he doesn't judge me, that kind of thing. Like build a friendship. Like you do. I see like you're friends with like half the town as far as I'm concerned, man. That's like the first step. You could do that. I mean, I feel like that's a big huge step right there. But then eventually you want to like let them know, like, oh, I go to this awesome church, around the way. You should come with me one day. And that's really what the job is as like a Christian, like to, show love, like, what you receive from church, to like give that to the people around you, what you receive from church, and then eventually try to get those people in. Now, people did that job, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't be able to say that churches never reach out, because it's like they are reaching out. The members are reaching out to people. That's our job. But let's keep it real. We're not always there. How do you feel about that?
So, things are not going well, right? That's the easiest way to say it, right? The reality is that if someone invites you to church, you feel like they're inviting you to something that's boring. Okay. That's why most people don't want to go to church. Like, I'm going to come to your church. I'm going to hear some boring songs. I'm going to hear some guy talk about something I already know. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And then I'm going to go home. And like, this is in the middle of my weekend. Like, it's not really doing anything for me. And then I have to, Jay-Z said it one time, life starts when the church ends.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Life starts when the church ends, and the church is just 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours on the weekend. So whatever the church is right now, the way it is conventionally, it's not working for most people. Now, some people are already disciplined, so they make it work, or they're able to find community within church, so they make it work. But for 90+% of us, it's not working. So the reason why you're here, the reason why we're talking about this, is because I wanted to brainstorm with you. And I really feel like you have the passion and that love for God.
Yeah.
And that's why,
love God.
I'm sure I could have reached out to a lot of people, and I know they love God too, but I really, I see what you do with my kids. Mm-hmm. And every week in church, I feel your commitment, right? So, that's a compliment, if someone said that for me, that's a big deal. So you're speaking I'm asking you to speak to something that's not working, and talk about what you think, and talk about like, what should we do? How can we really, you can't just say Pastor Bob needs to fix this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not just up to him.
Right. So what are your thoughts? Like, what are we doing?
See, that's the thing about it. I don't really know if it doesn't work per se. Like, I know what you're saying. Like, I guess it's not working because clearly we see a lot of people who are going their own way. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's like you got to kind of trust, like, what can we do more? Like, in a sense of like, it's really up to like the Spirit of God. That's what I would say. Like, because it's like there's only so much you can do. Like, I know it's for a fact, 'cause I am a pastor. I could preach a great sermon, but at the end of the day, man, it's like up to God's Spirit to like touch the person. You know what I'm saying? Because like I do this all the time. I preach sermons, and I hope that they get it. But at the end of the day, they have to like live a life about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like having faith that like that what I preach can like affect them. But at the end of the day, it's like there's only so much. Like, don't you think that people have a right to take accountability for themselves as well? In a sense of, if the pastor tells you, yo, this is what you need to do, isn't it our job or anyone's job to like do it once they hear that message? You know what I'm saying? And is it the church's fault if like they hear the message, but they don't like act on the message? That'd be my counter.
I mean, at the end of the day, right? It's a voluntary position. It's a voluntary job. It's a voluntary role. It's all voluntary. So you can preach the sermon and say, now it's on you. But the reality is, plenty of people are hearing it. They say yes. They raise their hand. They go up. They get baptized.
Yeah.
They listen. You're like, okay, you need to read this passage, and my argument is that the church can do more. This is a challenge here. The challenge is for us as Christians to say, like, yeah, I can do more, and we need to figure out what that more is and do more.
I mean, you have any ideas like what more is? Like, it's more like hitting them up, be like, yo, you read that Bible passage today? Did you like?
See, I think loving God and doing God's work is way more than the Bible.
Okay.
Like you said, it starts with that relationship. That's where it starts.
Relationship with like God or with the person?
No, the relationship with the person.
Okay.
Right? That's where it starts.
I would say it starts with, wait, okay, so what point? You're talking about like these people
you're saying that if you see someone, you don't just invite them to church, you start with a relationship.
Yeah, I agree with that part. Yeah, 100%. So you're talking about like people who aren't going to church.
Right. So now you invite them to church and they come to church and then they hear the sermon. Now you're saying, well, it's on you. You heard the sermon.
Whoa, no. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like, yeah, it is up to you. Like, if that person's your friend, you definitely should try to like, we say like doing life with a person. You ever hear that? You heard that saying before,
Say it again?
Doing life with people.
Right.
Like, it's not just like, see you next week. Like, it's more like, you still have a relationship with that person. They're still part of your family. They're still your friends. So, we do with your friends. You text them. Like, it's not just church stuff, really. You just text them. Like, I send my friends funny memes and Instagram and TikTok videos, stuff like that. Like, you still have that relationship, but at the same time, you still got to be like, hey, man, I'm praying for you. Hey, this was ministering to me. How do you feel about it? You still try to like get them to just kind of remind them of those things and help them walk it out. Because like the reality is, if a lot of times people aren't going to just do these things just because you sound like, hey, you should read this, but like you do it with them, I guess, like encourage them to do it and kind of like show them what it's about and like demonstrate. And that's where it gets them like more engaged versus like, here's a Bible, read this, see you next week,
So are you saying you're not sure what the church could be doing more of?
I mean, what else could they do? I mean, like literally, you got the message. I mean, people, us individual, like, what I'm saying, if that's your friend, we should be reaching out to them. But like, a lot of times I feel like need to open their mouth as well. Like, I hate to say it, but like, if you're like, sometimes people expect people in the church to be mind readers. Like, they'll be like, yo, no one ever reached out to me for like, however much time. And it's like, but technically the phone works both ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could at least be like, hey, I'm going through, or hey, like, we should get together, do some coffee. I just feel like people in the church are human. Let's keep it real. We're human, we're flawed. So there are times where like we may not pick up on like certain things. Like you're going through, we may not pick up on that. But at the same time, it's like, if you really want help, if you're looking for help, it does help when you kind of like reach out to a person, Am I making sense, or am I just going like?
I'm with you. Listen, we're on the same page. We're on the same page. So a part of what I'm saying is not really an indictment for anyone who's come before, any church that I've been to or any church that exists, you or anything, right? It's not an indictment. At this point, what it's about is, what are we going to do going forward? So I have a lot of ideas.
Oh yeah, you'll give me some of those ideas. Like, I want to hear some of this.
All right.
There might be something I never thought of.
I'm sure you're pretty much saying you just rely on the church and people telling you, and I'm like, there's a lot of things, and again, I think the first thing that we have to do is we need to become clean. Like, are we Christians or not? Like, am I saved? Am I not? Like, am I putting forward, like, do I really believe these things? Or am I just coming here because it's a support system, support group? Like, we need to come clean with that.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I've been to worship church for at least 2 going on 3 years.
It's been longer.
Could be 4. Maybe it's been 4, right? I moved to New Jersey in 2016, and maybe I started coming that same year. So we could say 4, okay? I don't know. I don't have that many relationships in that bit. I know a lot of people. I say hi to people, but like, how many people could say they've reached out to me like in a real way?
Yeah, that's definitely a fault on our part, definitely.
And again, it's not about worship church, right? I feel this is norm in church. Church is a place where you go, everyone sit down, you talk to who's on your wavelength, and see you next week. And maybe one or two people, you get that deeper connection where you actually exchange numbers and talk to them or whatever. And there's a lot of people who go to church and they never get those kinds of relationships. So the church has to find a way to interweave that into the experience.
I agree with that. I hear that a lot too. Like I've heard that not just from worship church, but just churches in general. Like most of the time when I hear about people who went to church, I say, why are you not going there anymore? They'll say something similar to that. Like, don't reach out to me after a while.
Yeah, no, but I'm the type of person, I keep going. And I'm saying it's not, no one reached out to me after a while, like 4 years. Like they're on my Facebook because I hit send requests. So now I'm on their, we probably have 40 friends in common and they're all from church. And no one's ever said, oh, you sent me a friend request? Let's have dinner. Or, oh, you have kids? Let's have our kids connect. Like never.
Yeah.
So to me, that church in general is just kind of like a place where you just kind of go sit for a couple hours, have your, let whoever sing to you, talk to you, and you have your personal relationship with God, but the personal relationship with the people is not really happening. So if I became a community pastor, that's one thing I would work on.
Yeah.
Everyone in groups attends, exchange numbers, write it down, create a list. Y'all need to meet weekly. It's more important that y'all meet weekly than y'all come here.
Okay.
Like I would go hard. People would be like, that dude's not normal. Like it would be reform. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that's not hard. You don't need, it's not a mystery. I feel like church is designed for all the chairs to be facing one way. So you stare at the back of people's heads.
Yeah.
It's designed that way.
I
Have you thought about this?
I agree with that. See, it's like weird for me because I'll be honest, I'm an introverted person in general. So like a lot of times, like, I'm like the kind of person who's like, I can only deal with people with so much, just the way I'm designed, so I don't really like, but at the same time, I do have my close friends that I do go to church with. So, and I didn't realize that was the thing. So I figured like you and your wife were like, at least your wife, I thought like she was connected with like the women of the church, right?
You're saying it.
But yeah, sure. Okay,
you're saying it.
It is definitely harder for the men. You know something? My dad actually said the same thing because like my dad actually was going to a church also in the Ewing area too, and he was saying like how he was there for like a long time and nobody reached out to him, and when they did, it didn't really. I feel like no one reached out to him, and he even was like an usher and everything, and they never no one ever invited him over and stuff. And man, like I always felt like, oh, my church is different, but it's true. You know what I'm saying? A lot of churches do this, and I just want to say like, I'm nobody in too much authority, but I do want to say, man, I apologize if you ever felt that way. You know what I'm saying? Because real talk, I could have hit you up. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why I didn't think to do that. Again, I'm an introvert, so it's not like my first way of thinking of things, but it's true. Like you definitely like. In fact, after this, I probably will hit you up more and stuff because like I do feel like it is important to build on those relationships for sure.
I mean, again, we talked about being a pastor before, and like I said, I'd love to be a community pastor in the church and take on these kinds of things and push that. And if I had a book, I'd write a book on that. I've been going to church my whole life, and this is like a norm. All the chairs face one way. I emphasize that to say that it's like that in school, right? When you're in school, all the chairs face the teacher and the teacher talks at you, right? So in life, things are set up that way, and it kind of gives an authoritative perception to things, right? It creates a mindset. So when things are set up that way, no one asks questions. You sit, you stay quiet, you listen, you take it at face value, and that's it. Yeah. So in my church, I want people to talk amongst themselves. That's like priority. You're gonna know at least 10 people well, and you take turns hosting at each other's house. And little by little, if you don't like that, you're gonna leave the church. Mm-hmm. And the ones who stay, that's my church, because that's what church is supposed to be.
So that's your question though. You never joined the Activate group though, because we were doing that for a minute. That didn't work out either.
I did.
Okay, my bad. I was just checking because I know like that was like the whole point of Activate.
I can totally give credit to Patrick and Tamara. Totally give credit to them because I went to their house.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you asking me and I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you I did go to their house.
Yeah.
And I did go to maybe one or two.
You probably went to Eric's house, like Eric and Laura.
I did go there once.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I went so I mean,
you never went to like Elevate? The I want to say what is it called? The older people ministry? So that's
the one I did with Patrick and Tamara.
Yeah.
And I went to their house maybe one time. And you're right. My wife is connected to the women of the church.
Yeah, you know them women, they can get together and yeah, it's true.
So I mean, I'm not here trying to make anyone feel bad. I'm not trying to single out worship church at all.
Yeah, it's like every church, you know.
You know what I'm saying? I would love to go. If a pastor sees this and calls me tomorrow, I'm like, listen, I'm out. I'm there. Because I have very strong feelings about being a Christian. Because the one thing about being a Christian that I love the most is that understanding that we're all on the same team. That understanding that, okay, so-and-so is an atheist, but he's still on the team. He's still a son of God. He's still a child of God. Right?
Right.
So to me, I don't care what religion you say you are or whatever, there's no difference. You agree with that?
I agree.
So that's how I treat people. No matter where I'm at, where I go, I strive to treat people that way. And in my personal experience, when you invite people to your house in church, like they're busy, and then there's this like, it's not normal, right? People want, and because of the back of the heads style, it's like, why is he breaking the norm? Like, who is this person? What are they doing? And it's not easy. Like, I've done it. I go to church and I'm like, let's do something after this, It's not, people are resistant to that.
Well, after church is a tough one. You got to pick like a Saturday or Thursday.
Well, when I say after church, I mean, if you can't do anytime.
But yeah, you're definitely saying a lot of, like, you're definitely telling the truth. Like as a youth pastor, I can only be responsible for the youth. When it comes to the youth, I definitely am like trying to take that model of like reaching out and stuff. And like I'm always like, I call Benjamin, like, maybe every other week, something like that, and like a lot of the other youth. Fortunate, like, oddly enough, most of the youth aren't really into the whole communication thing, so it's not as like much as I would like it. But like, I mean, that is a good model though. It's definitely needed, because I know a lot of people feel the same way you feel. A lot of people, that's how they feel love. You know what I'm saying? They don't feel love through like words. They feel it through like, hey, come over to my house. Let's have a walk together. Let's go get some coffee. That's how they feel like love and received.
And again, I'm gonna say it one more time, like specifically from you, I see a lot of authentic effort, right? And as a youth, if I was in your role, I'd be like, hey guys, this week we're playing Xbox.
Yeah.
Come to church, we're playing Xbox.
Yeah, definitely.
So that way it's like, all right, after that, we can do the dance party. We can play, Mario Kart. Like, I think it's less about studying the Bible and it's more about building the relationship.
I agree. I think both are important.
I'm not trying to
downplay. I know what you're saying. I just don't want to like make people be like, oh, what I'm saying, because I still got that fundamental like kind of thing in my head. But I agree with you. I do.
So So what can we do now?
Well, number one, we gotta like, I guess like, what's the word for it? Like, make sure that things are secure as far as like, sometimes people can slip through the cracks, you know? I'm sure for like every person who you do meet up with, there's always that one person who you didn't meet up with, but like, definitely like make sure that people don't slip through the cracks and just recognizing that like, me as an individual can do something. I can sit there and be there all day like, yo, pastor should do this and that, but it's like, I could do some of those things. You know what I'm saying? I could reach out to you. I could reach out to one of the other new brothers that is going to church. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'll be honest, like for me, it's a little more awkward. Like I said, I'm more of an introverted person just in general, but I gotta recognize that it's not about me sometimes. It's about like making the other person feel welcome. Like for me, it might be awkward, or for them, it may be like, yo, this person gets me. I feel seen, I feel loved, you know, that's what's important, you know.
I mean,
And
Moses was an introvert.
yeah.
You know, you just power through it. God will give you the words, and you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
It's 100% true. Like, listen, I'm an extrovert. You see, I'm doing this podcast and talking. You would never know.
I tell you what,
I'm used to it.
if you're interested, we can host some nights here.
Oh, over here.
Yeah, you know, I'm really trying to facilitate in-person community, and you know, and people need each other. There's a lot of people who's struggling, who's never gonna say it. That mom and dad who drops their kids off at youth group,
Mm-hmm.
they're in need and they don't say it.
That's true.
Like
I've been there before. I've been in need before, and you know, people didn't reach out to me. Like, in fact, you know something crazy? You know why I'm the youth pastor I am? Remember when I was a youth in need? I remember to this day, I was really in need. I went to youth group and nobody talked to me. The thing about it was they knew me. So I grew up in that church. I mean, okay, I won't say like that. I used to go to that church when I was younger, but I came back and it was like, people act like they didn't know me and no one like hit me up. And I walked, like I came and hoping like someone to reach out to me. No one did that. And it just, I always said like, yo, if I ever become a youth pastor, I would make sure it never happened to one of my youth, because that would like, because I know how that feels. So, and it even happens as adults. You know, a lot of times you feel like adults, it's like, you know, you're an adult, you'll get over it, you know, but still it's that same effect, you know. At some way, we're all kids in a way, you know what I'm saying? Like we all have those,
right.
Those things still hurt us even when we're an adult, you know.
I mean, I know you kept meeting throughout the pandemic leading up to now.
Yeah.
And again, commendable, you know, but like I said, when, you know, I'm dropping off Benjamin and the other parents dropping off their kid, you know, the parents have been isolated. You know, we haven't seen anyone in months. So at one point, I'm taking, you know, Benjamin to the youth group, and, you know, there's been 3 months of no in-person anything.
Yeah, I'll be honest, things are like very different now. Like, it's just like kind of getting back into the swing of things. And like,
again, like, it's not an indictment.
Yeah, I understand 100%, but things are definitely a little different, like new leadership. And it's not that they do that kind of stuff, but it's like, you know, Patrick and Tamara were like really into that whole like elevate, like, oh, it's like 30 plus meetings and everything. And
how
like,
often was that?
Wasn't it like every once a month, something like that?
Is that enough?
Yeah, probably not.
I mean,
it's a start though. It's a start though. At least.
I'm not putting it on them.
Well, I understand, okay? But it's definitely a start.
But I'm just kind of like shining the light on stuff. And so my thing is, if I read the Bible says don't cuss, don't watch that movie, don't drink, don't. What am I supposed to do?
I'm real. Yeah. You probably would get along with like the Spanish church because I know. I'm just saying they got a bigger community. They're more into the community aspect than like the English service. That's what one thing I realized, because they always are meeting together. Like they are like, you go on Facebook, they're always doing stuff together. You know, English service, we're not as united. We're not as clicked up as like the Spanish service. So, hey, that might be your niche right there, or maybe. But like, and I'm telling you right now, I can't really see it happening now because like right now, it's like a lot of like. It's like a woman, like a majority women, like a few of the husbands, but it's not like before we had like a solid group of like a lot of men, you know what I'm saying? So that's going to take a while to rebuild again, unless you like include like a Spanish church, then you do have it, but you know. But yeah, there are things that we do got to like be reminded of like these things are important, you know? Because like of course we got like the youth ministry, we have the children's ministry, but sometimes we forget about the adults, you know? That's just as important. And it's vital. It's like the difference between like someone not going to church at all and just doing their own thing versus them staying. It's the community.
Yes,
Now
exactly.
it's conversation. It's like so true. It needs to be had. You're 100% right.
Exactly. So my point is, when I'm alone, or the only person I have is my coworker who drinks, you know, the church is meeting once a month, and I have a friend who meets every weekend, and he comes over and drinks. Then you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm more likely to do that. If you ask me, Alexi, what's your role model for church, or how do you see church? It's that early church.
Yeah, 100%. It's like we're trying to get to it, but it's like we just can't do it. Like I don't know why. We struggle with that.
Here's the solution, right? If you really love God and you're serious about this work, you go to other denominations, other programs, other whatever. You go to those and you let people know, like, I'm serious about this work. You talk to the pastor, you talk to whoever you got to talk to, and you know, sign up lists, email lists, whatever, and put the word out there. Because to me, I think we're all one body. You think?
No, definitely. No, I'm 100% agree with you.
Why isn't this happening?
Well, I feel like it was happening to an extent. Now I can truly say like things have definitely changed a lot since the pandemic. Like I don't want to make that.
Well, let's make the conversation everything leading up to pandemic.
Yeah.
Because we know pandemic shut everything down. Yeah. But my point is, there's maybe three Black churches going back on Witherspoon. I don't know. Do you know this town well? No.
Witherspoon sounds familiar, so I'm gonna.
That's where the library is.
Okay.
There's 3 Black churches going that way, right? And then there's like 4 or 5 white churches on Nassau.
Okay.
Okay. So my point is, those pastors are not doing that. We're not like doing that.
We're talking about like making meaning off like other churches, or like
mix and mingle. You gotta mix.
Oh, that's a hard one. That one is a hard one.
Why aren't we mixing and mingling?
I mean, you said it right there. You said a Black church and a white church. You think a Black church and a white church is gonna mix and mingle? Let's keep it real.
So you think that's what it
like
is?
Like the Black church is gonna mingle with the Black church, but they're not gonna mingle with the. You know. Let's keep it real.
So again, now then I'm gonna ask the white Christians. How many of you down to mingle with the Black Christians? Show of hands. There's a sign up list in the back. As a Black pastor, I'm going to this church and I'm posing this question to each church.
Well, of course, they're going to say yeah. Like,
no, it's not about saying yeah. It's about putting your name on the list and next week showing up. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm about that revival. If you're saying, Alexi, what are you talking about? I'm talking about a revival. I'm going to go.
Yeah. Come on.
There's been revivals in the past, religious, spiritual, Christian revivals in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say revival, I think it's coming. It's definitely coming. So revival means like everyone's getting energized and doing things that they haven't been doing in a long time. So if you ask me, I think it's going to happen.
It kind of has to happen because that's what people are looking for. That's what people are looking for.
So the white people are in their white church singing their white songs, staying in their box. And the Black church are like, oh, well, I know they don't want us.
Wait, hold up. You gotta admit, Black church ain't gonna like go to the white church either.
Well, there's an honest reason why Black people should not lead the charge on that.
I agree. Okay, I agree with that 100%. But we like to stick to ourselves, and they like to stick to ourselves. Just the way it is. Churches stick to
that's the way it is. I don't know if that's true.
Spanish church stuff. When is this?
To an extent, I don't think that's true. To an extent, I don't think that's true. If you ask people like me, would you be down for white community? I'm like, sure.
I don't know. I feel like
people like me.
I've been through it all. I've been to the Black church, the white church. I'll tell you, the Black church ain't going to the white church.
But we know why. If there's I'm probably gonna say it wrong.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but there's a church in Princeton, right? And they will tell you the history of the church. The black people got thrown out.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I know the history. Yeah, I grew up AME, so like I know the whole.
They
history.
literally got thrown out. So now, do you think the black people should now walk up the hill and try to come back? No, the white people need to walk down the hill and say, we messed up. Here is half of our endowment. Like, let's do stuff. Let's make this right. You cannot tell me you're a real Christian and not do that, period.
Yeah.
So if I show up as a pastor and you mad at me for saying that, it's not my church. It's okay. I'll leave. Because if you have a dispute with that, you're not a real Christian.
Well, I just mean it not even as like black and white people, just as Christians in general, like just getting together and meeting. Just being like, you're a Christian, we claim to be about the same things, let's get together. Not even on a white or black thing, just like, hey, you're a church, I'm a church, we both work in the same community. Let's throw a barbecue for the people of the community.
It's not happening. Jonah, it's not
I know it's not happening. It doesn't happen. Yeah, you're right.
It's crazy. There'll be a mass shooting over here and you still stay in your church. There'll be a
that. I would say, why aren't you like going out and doing these things? Like bringing it, like being like, yo, pastor, why don't we have this? Listen, I'm willing to like do this. I just want you to like, can I meet here or something?
When I first started,
yeah,
coming to worship church, I approached
Pastor Mark, I guess.
No, I approached Tamara and Patrick. I approached them with the let's start having lunch at church. And they're like, yeah, we do the cakes and we do that. Like, let's just leave it, blah, blah, blah. Let's just leave it like that. And that was the response I got.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized the real pastor was Pastor Bob.
Well, I would say.
I mean, the head pastor.
He's the head, but Patrick and Mary were the ones to go to because he ain't gonna do anything in you.
So then I went to him and I said, we should do this.
Okay.
We can't, the logistics. And so to me, lunch is like the most basic step.
That's what I'm saying. Like, for instance, the whole time during the pandemic, I was meeting with like other people, but we didn't like go to the church. We just did our thing. And that's what I feel like sometimes you just gotta do our thing sometimes.
But people want to be people want to do it through the church.
But that's what I'm saying. The church is gonna do it. Like, as I said, when you talk about the church, you're talking about logistics. You're talking about like all these different things.
The church has the space. Like they
well, I thought you were talking about lunch with everyone. I was just talking about like me and a few of the brothers getting together to have lunch, like that's all.
The church has to create the culture. When I approach you, you are more likely to say no. But when the pastor says we're now having official lunch, it's very different.
Well, they say no. But I'm saying, but the person that says yes, those are the people who are really about like trying to have that community.
Yeah.
The people who say no are just, they're busy. It's not their interest. But you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for the people who want that kind of thing. And so that's really crazy you brought this up. I actually was thinking about this. There's like this one guy who came to church. He's been there for a while, and I just think to myself, has anyone ever like been like, "Hey, brother, you want to come to my house for dinner," or something like that? Maybe they have, but I just came to my attention, like, yo, has anyone ever said that to me? And I'll be honest, I don't even have a house to have that kind of thing, but I think like it's worth like at least being like, hey, I'm gonna go. I got to my team, ask that same question and be like, hey, I'm gonna get lunch or something. Because you said that's so important. And it's like, I'm glad we're having this conversation. This is highlighting this thing for me in a way I never really paid attention to.
And that's and again, I felt like you would be an audience for that. And that's what my podcast is about.
Yeah.
It's about what are we doing? Let's really think about it. Like let's be like serious. Like let's really like challenge ourselves. Let's really like challenge each other. Let's step up. Let's like, what are we doing? That's it. Community. If you pay attention to the podcast, I have a lot of conversations about community, and the conversation is not necessarily about church and Christianity, right? Because I think what we're called to do is bigger than the building. It's bigger than just the conventional ways we think about being saved, right? If I'm hurting, I can't hear the gospel. You have to clothe and shelter me first, so I can then feel the love, and then you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear it.
So this is the whole body of what I'm doing, and the podcast is to be a beacon to outside people, to kind of get the message out, to do all of these complicated work things, and to get people like yourself. We could have had this conversation without the podcast, right? Definitely. And it would have been equally as effective. But the idea is to open it up to someone else is gonna, like, now you're saying, oh, I'm thinking different. I'm gonna do more. Different. So now the idea is to kind of open this up so other people can think different and do more.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah.
And like I said, it's like, sometimes you do forget about that. Like even church, like sometimes you can have like all these other things together, but you don't have this one little ministry, and it's like, you forget about it. And it's like, it's just good that you're here to remind people and say like, yo, you do need this. This is important. This is how I'm feeling. And like I said, you're not alone, and eventually we're all going to get it together. But until then, we're going to need these podcasts.
I'm going to tell you this story, right? I'm going to tell you this story. I was on the choir in my church.
You can say?
No.
Okay.
I was on the choir in my church, right? So then it would be like 2 rows of like 20 seats.
Yeah.
And there was like a group of young men. This was when I was a teenager. There's a group of young men who had a whole clique in the choir, right? And so they would come, have their clique, and I felt excluded. And one week I got there early and I like sat in the middle of, the tenor section. And then little by little, you already know, little by little, everyone showed up and they were like, can you like move over?
Yeah. That's ridiculous, yeah. You're supposed to get rejected by like the people who are supposed to be the church, man, supposed to be your family.
So we do have work to do. I know there's pastors and churches that are doing the work. My main call to action for a pastor would be to join hands once a year on the Washington, D.C. steps. Don't even talk about issues. We just join hands here. This is a peace march for Christians. And if 1 million Christians shows up, imagine that.
Yeah. Come on, you'd be better off just doing a Trump rally. That would have 1 million Christians showing up.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know what you're saying.
White, black, like we're all here. Join hands. We don't even got to talk about no issues. We just gonna be here. Like that would like blow people's minds. And this is when I start to say, like, are people just missing this, or is this a choice to stay the way we are?
I mean, it's definitely a lot of work. I don't think, I'll be honest, a lot of churches ain't gonna do it.
But the pastor not. Why is the pastor not gonna do it?
I know why. Depending on, like, my philosophy is different. I don't believe in like depending on the pastor for everything. At some point, you just gotta be like,
the leader
listen.
that represents the people,
and the people gotta bring things.
The people are the sheep. 99, like I'm not the average person.
Yeah.
The average person is gonna stay behind the pastor. And so if the pastor doesn't have lunch, they will go 10 years in the church and not have lunch with nobody in that church.
Yeah, but I also feel like as well, we can do the initiative too. Like,
I hear you. I'm not trying to take that away.
That's what I'm saying. Because like me personally, if somebody was like, where like to sit there and be like, no one ever reached out to me, I just feel like at some point you gotta be like, hey, you want to do lunch, do that kind of thing. Because like you may never get it that way. But sometimes you have to start something, and not just for you, but for like other people as well. You know what I'm saying? You'd be like, yo, I noticed that you haven't been being reached out to. We should just get together, and just grow from there, and then start inviting other people, like straight up. During the pandemic,
individual responsibility.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. During the pandemic, I literally had like a whole church going on. Like literally, it was like maybe like 7 of us from the church, like just getting together during the pandemic because like 2 of us said like, hey, nobody's meeting, we should meet. And then it just grew from there. And it was getting like pretty big until like, church opened, and then we kind of like, but like, that's what it takes sometimes. It's like you just doing something, starting something, and it just gets bigger from there. But if you're always waiting for the pastor, at least bring it to his attention. But the reality is pastors are busy, they got other things going on. What's actually it's better for you to start your thing and the pastor to see that and be like, yo, I'm joining with that. There was like at my mom's church, right? There was a couple who had a heart for doing homeless ministry, right? The church did not have a homeless ministry, but they would just do it on their own individual accord. They would get people to church. At some point, the pastor saw what they were doing and recognized like, yo, this is a great thing you're doing. I'm going to make you guys a pastor over like the homeless ministry or whatever. Like official pastors, like they're getting paid to be pastors. But it all started from their own initiative. They didn't just wait around and say someone should do that. They took on their own initiative. And I'm telling you right now, you take your own initiative. Even that's how I actually became a youth pastor. Just taking my own initiative. And people saw how I was taking initiative with the youth, they made me a youth pastor. And same thing with you. I feel like in any church you go to, if you just start doing that, people would see that and be like, yo, you can do this full time. Like, or I'm not even just there full time, but they'll say, you could be our guy that can be the outreach guy. Right. Because you're so good at it. And because, like, I'll be honest, pastors don't realize that sometimes. And sometimes it takes a person to show them how it's done for them to really get it. Because let's keep it real, pastors have a lot on their plate. I mean, it seemed like it. Like, you just think all pastors do is preach on Sunday.
No, for real.
But it's like they do like so many other things. Like, I wouldn't want to do all that. I like where I'm at right now. I don't have to do much but like talk to my youth and like pretty much preach on, when I do my youth things. But yeah, so what we do as individuals, I feel like that could be way more effective than like waiting on a pastor or trying to get the pastor to organize. Way more effective.
I agree, man. So, yeah, this is a call to action, man. I want you to be my co-chair. Let's do something.
Okay. Yeah, you think I'm playing around? Let's do it. Yeah, let's really do something.
Man. I know you're the guy. This is why I came to you.
And I'm gonna, so you say that, I'm gonna start inviting people to like just out to lunch. Just be like randomly like, yeah, I see you, brother. Want to go out to lunch or something, and start from there.
If you want to set up like a weekly night at my house, let's plan that.
Okay.
Right. And you know, to be honest with you, since the pandemic, I think we went to worship church one time.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you did only come one time.
Since the pandemic, you reopened, and you know, between the checklist and whatever, the consistency being broken, not having the church, not having the kids ministry anymore, and people just freaked out about the virus. And then the next week, Pastor Bob got COVID, and then it was just like, it didn't stick back, you know?
It's like a whole new church too, I would say, like compared to what you used to know. Because like, do you even know Pastor Johnny, right? But you never.
Yeah. I saw like maybe
one. Well, you went to his house one time. I remember
we
went to his house for the men's thing the one time.
Yeah, I love Pastor Johnny. For sure. I have no issues with worship church. I'll still be there, but just the whole circumstance, we lost the momentum and the routine, and you know, not feeling fully connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every week they had that connection card, and that bothered me, because you got the connection card, but you're not connected.
Yeah, it's true.
They were more focused on the card than the connection.
I mean, it's somebody's job to really connect with you. That's the first time I ever heard that. I've seen that they did that. Because I know if I meet like a young adult, I always like, you know, hit them up and be like, hey, man, it was nice meeting you. We should get together sometime. Most of the time they don't even respond back, but I just do that just because I know that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. When someone comes to a church and they see authentic community, they see the connection card, and then they get that phone call, they're gonna respond. But when they used to seeing the back of heads, and this feels like every other church, they know the connection card, people just want to convert them. And it just feels like nobody wants that.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I really appreciate the time. Sorry about the connection. I don't know how this is gonna come out. But yeah, let's start to work, man. And that's what this is about.
No, it's good. Like, we definitely should. Man. Yo, eventually, like maybe, I don't know about this week, but maybe like next week, we can get together for sure.
Yeah, man. You know where I'm at. And once things settle down with the fall and kids in school, we'll have a rhythm and we could do things, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for joining me today.
No, thank you for bringing me on this podcast. I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I'm glad I came and joined, you know?
I could go on and I could go into a lot of things, but I think we really got a good nutshell right here.
Yeah, we did.
All right, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, nice meeting you guys.